Hello, this is Casey, also known as Grandpa, from KC Boomertech. We talk about tech, fun stuff, and much, much more. In part one, I talked to you about which is better, an HDD versus an SSD, and some of the pros and cons of each one. And today I told you in part two, I'm going to be talking to you how to install step-by-step a solid-state drive. I'm going to be putting it in my laptop. And I'm going to be going over the things you're going to need. I'm going to be putting in a Western Digital Blue solid-state drive. So let's get to it, and I'll show you what you're going to need. So in part one, I discussed what you're going to need and the differences. In part two, I'm going to show you step-by-step. I'm going to be replacing my Dell laptop's hard drive, but let's go over on what you're going to need. Now, the first thing you're going to need is a replacement drive, whether you have an M2, an M4, an M6, or is it a drive that contains is a SATA drive, and is it 2.5, which is common in laptops, or is it 3.5? So those are some of the questions you have to be able to answer. Now, the next thing you need to know is if your laptop has an M2, M4, or M6 drive, you're going to need to be able to take that drive and install it. And what you're going to need to do to clone it is you're going to need a cloning device. Now, this is an M2, and I'm going to try to see if you can see it. Whoop, there we go. I think that's better. And it can tell you it's a 3.0 SSD box. You slide it open, and it will allow you to put the new drive in. So if you're upgrading, a lot of PCs come with 128 or 256 SSD M2, M4, M6 drive, and you want to upgrade it to a larger one, you're going to need to clone that drive. And you're going to need a device like that. You'll have to put the new one in that device and use the cloning software to copy it. Now, if you have a standard SATA drive, you have a couple of choices. One of them is a powered device like this. Okay, let me switch over here. You can see better. This is a powered device, and what's nice about it is, I don't know if you can see it inside, it allows you to use either a 3.5 or a 2.5 drive and be able to clone it. This will plug into the USB socket on your computer, and you'll be able to copy the drive. Now, something I bought and I find very, very useful. This one is by Unitek, and this is a dual cloning device. Now, the main difference is, again, it can hold a 2.5 or a 3.5 hard drive. But the nice thing about it is, is I can take the drive, and if I have it external, and put it in slot 1, the new drive in slot 2, and then there's a button here you press, and it says clone. So without any cloning software or anything else, press it, and then it'll tell me when it's finished cloning. Now, that has some really, really, really nice ideas. Nice benefits to it is, if your computer's drive is completely dead, but you don't have a replacement Windows 10 disk from the manufacturer, you could take the drive out, put it in that device, put the new drive in the second drive, clone it, put it back, the new one, into the computer, and then when the computer come up, you say system restore from the sector, recovery sector, and in most cases with most hard drives, while the main sector on the hard drive is still bad, the recovery one is still good, and since you've cloned it, you'll be able to use the recovery disk and bring back the original operating system and all of the things that came with your computer. And then you'll be able to take that drive, put the old drive into that same box, and copy over your personal files if the drive is still operational. If not, Of course, that won't work. But that's one of the nice things about using devices like these, is that you can copy, clone without using any software. That being said, what else do you need? Well, I strongly recommend you get a static band. This goes on your hand, and this goes on, usually clips onto your computer, so you are at the same level, because these things are easily destroyed by these devices are easily destroyed by static, and you don't want to pay $200 for a brand new hard drive and have destroyed it. So getting into that is your basics. Let me talk about software. Now, I personally like to use either Seagate or Western Digital, and for the common reason is that they come with their own cloning software. It's a cloning software that's made by Acronis, A-C-R-O-N-I-S. Seagate called it Seagate Wizard. Western Digital has their nomenclature for it, but they have the full version available online, which also includes a antivirus software. So when you're cloning your data, it'll also scan it for viruses or malware and remove them as it's going. So that's really good software. Let me get into showing you how to do it, and that's be my next step. So, as you can see on my screen, I have my computer, my laptop set up. I have taken the device, plugged it in, and I plugged it into the 3.0 USB socket. And I have my cloning device here. And I've downloaded already the Western Digital software by Acronis. I don't know if you can see it here, but over here is the AT build. And I'm going to extract it because it came in that way. And then I'm going to run it. Now, while I'm doing that, I have the new drive that I've gotten in the box. You can see it. Yeah. Okay. Now, important. Remove before installing. That's the new drive. See it? And we'll put that in our cloning device. I had a little trouble getting this back working. I had to power down the laptop and repower it up for it to recognize the Western Digital. At any rate, on the screen you can see this is the cloning software that I'm using. And over here it says clone disk, automatic recommended. Go to next. And it's telling me what my original drive is. I'm going to select it. I'm going to say next. And it's going through, it's looking at that drive, making sure that it can be cloned. Here's my second drive. I'm going to hit next. And that's okay because you're going to be totally erasing the drive. My grandkids are on the way in the room, and we don't want them involved in this. At any rate, as you can see, it is now copying the drive. It'll prepare it, copy it, and I'll get back to you when it has reached that point in here. And I'm hoping that you can see this pretty well. Pretty hard to get this on the screen. And I will continue when I've cloned the drive. So we'll talk about it. So the software has cloned my hard drive, and it automatically turned off my laptop. So now we're going to be beginning to go in there, take the cover off, and replace the hard drive. So I'll show you that in about a minute. All right, I've taken my Dell laptop, flipped it over here. I want you to be aware. Some of them have a door that you can use, and you can just get to the hard drive. In this case, you got to take the whole bottom off. If your computer has a CD-ROM, there's going to be a screw back over here, somewhere in the middle. And you're going to say, oh, well, that's not important. Yes, it is. And you want to take that screw out first, because it's going to be different from the rest. It's going to be a different size. It's going to be a different usage. And I want you to take that screw and put that away from everything. Once you've done that, the CD-ROM, whole CD-ROM, you didn't see it. The whole CD-ROM will slide out of the laptop. That has to be done first. And you might say, what? Why? When you're removing that. On some laptops, right here, there are 3 tiny little screws. And if you don't remove those, you'll break the case as you're taking it off. So I'm going to proceed to take out all the screws. I will be right back. Okay, I have removed all the screws. Now the next thing to do is to pry it open. Now, a lot of people try a lot of different things. I personally find right here, by the back, right here where you can get the, right here, see it? By the back of the laptop is the easiest place to begin prying the back of the laptop. Some people will try to do this in the front, and that is very, very challenging. Now, just double check you got all your screws out, and off it'll come. Not that hard to do, but again, you want to try prying back here, or try prying in the area by the seat where the CD-ROM came in. The case is very thick there, and you'll have less chances of breaking something. Now, let's look over here. Now here we have our laptop drive right here, right? Now, important. I recommend you take out the battery and unplug it. And that's located over here. Now, you might say, why? Again, the same thing. You are trying to protect your computer against damage. And I just unplugged the battery from the machine. Now, if you're going to unplug this, now if you remember what I said to you in the very beginning, what you were going to need, and that is a static armband, and you're going to connect that to the computer someplace on a metal point. The idea is that you don't want any sparks coming damaging the computer. And then the other end, obviously, will go on your wrist. And I have that on my wrist. You can see it. And of course it popped off. But what else is new in these things? Now, and for those of you who do have carpal tunnel, you can do it. Now I happen to like this little tool. I don't get anything for this, but I happen to like walk tools. They're very versatile. Now, I've already happened to one time taken out the hard drive on this to put a temporary hard drive in, just so I could get the laptop back up again. until the new drive came in. Now, when you are removing this from the hard drive, do not ever pull on the cable. If you pull on the cable, you can rip it out, and then you'll have to order a whole new piece. Instead, try to get underneath. Now, I try to be really real with these videos to give you an idea of what's going on, because when you go in there yourself and you're trying to do this, it might be a little bit of a problem. So what you can do, instead, get yourself a nice pair of tweezers, get a hold of the connector, and gently, and I mean gently, try to pull that off. In this particular case, as gentle as I would, the cover came off. All right? See, and I want you to be real. I don't want you to be scared. I don't want you to be frightened about this. But if you're going to do it yourself, be aware that these things are very fragile. Unfortunately for me, it's just a cover. And I'm going to pop it back on. All right? But again, like I said, it's very fragile cable. Be aware of it. I'm gonna go take the hard drive out, unscrew it. Basically, there's 4 screws going around the hard drive, and that's very as simple as it gets. Alright, so I've installed a new drive. And the last thing you're going to do is to reconnect the battery. Now, like I said, the most reason why you do this is you don't want to have power while you're connecting things or disconnecting things. Remember, you used to be able to take the battery out of the computer and then you would be settled, but unfortunately, don't force it. You'll bend the pins, you'll bend the connectors, and that's what you don't want. Now, while I have it apart, if you want to add memory, this is where you would add memory. Okay, add RAM to the computer. And again, and as you just saw, it's the same procedure for replacing the battery. There's 3 screws on this side. Unplug it here. So if your battery on your computer is not working, it's an internal, it's very simple. Take the cover off. Take the 2 screws or 3 screws that's securing it, get the model number off it, plug it back in again. Now, when I'm going to put the cover back on it, now the one thing you want to be aware, again, is that you're going to have to set the time, because since I've taken the power off, I don't know if you can hear it. And it'll snap in place. Okay. That's essentially how to replace a hard drive. Also, to replace the battery, and to add more memory to the same computer. I'm going to put the screws back in and we'll just watch it come. I've installed all the screws, and remember that one screw that we took out before, that little screw that takes out the CD-ROM. Now we're ready to flip it over. By the way, kind of note, pick this up. $4 LED light, charges up. Found it really helpful when I'm doing a lot of work around the desk, when I need a little spotlight but not a flashlight. Alright, now let me take this off. Now when you boot up the laptop for the first time, it's gonna the BIOS is going to go through a process of discovering the new drive. So the new drive is in, everything is done, you've cloned it, okay? It'll begin to load the software, but then it'll notice that the BIOS is going to notice that the hard drive has changed. So it will do a change. Some cases it will reboot, some cases it'll come straight up. So hopefully, bam. And then of course that's the beautiful thing about putting solid state drives in a computer. The computer comes right up, no issues. Anyway, let me go and finish up. So finishing up, what I removed from the computer in the very beginning, which I was telling you, which was a mechanical hard drive. It happened to be by Seagate. It failed 2 days after the Dell warranty, which kind of was frustrating. It just kept spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. I was able to recover my data. And I put a temporary hard drive in it, which happened to be a Samsung 250, but that was too small. So I ordered a new one, put it in a Western Digital. And as you saw, it's not that hard to do this. You will need some type of device to connect the new hard drive to the computer and be able to copy the data off and clone it. If your drive is not working, you can use the dual cloning device and copy the entire hard drive over, and then use on the new hard drive the copied recovery partition to bring the hard drive back up again. Again, Seagate and Western Digital both have a version of Acronis which works only with that particular brand, which will allow you to clone it. Or you can get the whole version of the cloning software by Acronis. Very good software. Also has some backup features and things added to that. Kind of really good. Now, also, as I showed you, the same process of taking the unplugging the battery, the internal battery in the laptop, is the same process you'll use to replace it. Take the 3 screws out, unplug the battery, put the new one in, and plug it back in again. And as you saw, it's not that easy sometimes. That connector is very small. Be very ginger with all of the connectors in the computer. If you're not sure how to get it out, look up it on YouTube or something. Be sure what you're doing. Don't pull on the cable ever, because the cable will rip right out. And the same thing with the memory. You can add RAM. In my case, my Dell laptop has a open slot to add more memory. My computer already has 8 gigs, so I'm not upgrading it any further than that. But if your computer only had 4, you can easily take it out and replace it once you have the cover off. Not that hard to do. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Put your comments or questions in there. And I'll be back to you with more content on tech stuff